In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose. As long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be talking about our last show before the Chicago Bears NFL draft. We're talking baseball, we're going to be talking a little Chicago Sky and more. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You could see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is going on right now. They're in the playoff hunt. So head on over to icehogs.com. Get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, how are you doing, my friend?
I am doing great. Today, Monday, you could not have asked for a better weather day. So, during work, I was able to get outside and do a walk outside, and man, oh man, oh man, it is like picture perfect.
Yeah, it's beautiful out. I didn't go out of there enough. But when we're done recording, I'm going to take the dog for a long walk and really enjoy. This has been a seemingly long winter.
And it's funny because like the weather really hasn't been that awful compared to years past. It just feels like we've been in a patch of just mediocre to bad weather for a while. And obviously in April it's so up and down. And I do think it's ironic that when the Cubs had their first stint here at home, the weather was as bad as it could be. And the second they left town, oh hey, the weather decided to get nicer.
It's true. Yeah, you're right. It hasn't been a terrible winter. It's just been gloomy for a long time. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
nice. It's nice to have the sun.
Yeah, the past few days, it's been like very few to no clouds in the sky. Like it is a great serotonin booster.
Absolutely. So we are talking on this Monday, and this is the last episode we'll have. Oh no, sorry, we got one more, but
We got one more.
we got one more. Sorry, we have one more, but we're coming up on the NFL draft, and I'm getting anxious here. Like it's seeming real, and we're hearing all of the talking heads acting like players have moved up and down draft boards when they're really you know they're only moving on mock draft boards. But you know, I I'm starting to really feel that the Bears are not moving from that number 9 pick. That they
I'm
are going
kind
to
of
take
feeling
some.
the same way.
And you know, I've seen a lot of quote unquote experts and talking heads, and with either Neighbors or Adunze on the board, they're trading back. With if they're the Bears, and I just don't see that.
Can you really pass on Malik Neighbors if he falls to you?
No, or Adunze. I think if any of those top 3 wide receivers are there, you're taking them. The only situation where you're you're even considering trading back is if those 3 dudes are off the board. You know,
Yes.
I is
But even so, what if there's an edge rusher that pulls likes there?
I mean, that's a possibility. It's weird because you look at the way that most people, put the draft board. The top 3 edge rushers fall somewhere between, like 11 and 20-ish,
Mm-hmm.
which is slightly back from where the Bears are. But if you're the Bears and you're not getting any sort of value from trading back, or you're not finding a trade partner that's a important thing. Is it's not like, oh yeah, just trade back, because I'm sure there's a lot of teams that would love to just trade back and get more picks. But if you don't have somebody that's willing to trade up, in that spot and give you fair value, that it takes two to tango.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the thing right there. Now, here's what my thoughts are with the draft at that number 9 spot is we know what best case scenario is for the Bears, right? For everybody else. Best case scenario for the Bears is as many teams as possible take a quarterback between our first pick and our next pick, because that'll mean there is more available of those position players that could potentially fall. Now, I don't know about you, but and maybe this is all just smoke, but boy, it seems like there is so much smoke around JJ McCarthy being taken high. And whether that's the Vikings trading up to get him or maybe a surprise in between them. I mean, what if the Broncos decide to move up and take McCarthy with a top 6 or 7 pick? I mean, there's so much fire around, smoke, I should say. You wonder if there's a fire.
You know, I keep going back and forth on if he's really going to go like really early, like top 5 or 10 pick, or this is he this office where they had Will Levis show up at the NFL draft and he didn't go until the second round,
Right, right.
you know, and that's he clearly thought he was going early in the draft because there was people that were mocking him as number 2 overall.
That just seems, I mean,
And if you're not, you're not showing up if you're not expecting to be drafted high, and I'm sure that there are people that work for the NFL that are, talking to these players and like trying to coordinate who's coming. That's, so everybody got fooled there. Is JJ McCarthy going to be that guy this year?
right. I mean, it just, you think about it and, you know, now obviously number 1 is Caleb Williams. It would be shocking if the number, to me at least, I mean, the number 2 quarterback is probably most likely Drake May, right?
I
Or
mean,
could it be Jaden Daniel? I mean,
it's on film, it would seem those two guys. I would probably at this point go Jaden Daniels, but I mean here's the problem with drafting and projecting quarterbacks is most positions, what you see on film and the work ethic behind it, those are the things that you're going to get on the NFL field. But with the quarterback is like the style of play that they're doing
mhm.
in the NFL or in the NCAA, that doesn't always translate to the NFL. The way that they understand the defense and read it doesn't translate into the NFL because, there's teams out there where they are having signals on the sideline telling you who the hot receiver is and who they have to go to. And it's a 1 read or 2 read. And if you look, open players in college football are wide open from an NFL standard. So it's it's a lot easier of a read if a guy is wide open versus a guy is that NFL window open where it might be, a 2 foot area.
Well, and I think there's something to be said too about, we talk about playing style and the system they play in and kind of what a quarterback's attributes are. I mean, there are teams that are looking for certain attributes. I mean, because let's be real, there are some teams that say, hey, maybe the numbers don't look different, but your style of play is more in fit of our system than, say, this other quarterback.
Yeah, I heard somebody, I think was it today or last week on the radio, and they were asked, like, how if you brought in Mitch Trubisky and Patrick Mahomes in for interviews to talk to them, how did you come away with Mitch Trubisky being the guy that you go with? And they were like, Mitch Trubisky on a whiteboard knows exactly what's going on. He hears it, he processes it, he can tell you everything that's happening on that whiteboard, and he can spit it back to you exactly how you want to hear it, and better than Mahomes. But they have no way to translate that once that's on the field. Who can do it better? And clearly, Patrick Mahomes is infinitely better at it when it comes on the field uh, than Trubisky. But then they came up with that new test where they're like, oh, that's supposed to be able to be their processing speed, and that was going to help them project. But CJ Stroud bombed that horrifically, and he comes out and looks absolutely phenomenal his rookie year. So it's so hard to tell.
Right. Right. It's one of those things where you look at and you take those kind of tests with a grain of salt, because I think there's something to be said about, look, you might be able to take a test. You might be able to look at a simulation. You might be able to do things in practice, but there's a big difference between taking a test and being on an actual field in play, with, calls being made and guys on the field and people coming at you and just being in a game action. There's a very big difference. And you can't just always base a test like that. So, because didn't Justin Fields pass with flying colors?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, and again, and not to shit on Justin Fields, I'm just saying what we saw from CJ Stroud last year was the makings of a legitimate great quarterback. And you know what you also account for as well? I'm going to go back to what I just said, talking about coaching and the system. Because when you play in a certain system and things work, that works to you and you work with it better than, say, another coach's system, well, that makes a big difference. I mean, that makes a huge difference. We've seen quarterbacks thrive in certain systems better than others, and we've seen certain teams take certain types of quarterbacks. Look what the Bears tried to do with Justin Fields. They tried to make him a pocket passer. He's not. He's better when he's on the move, on the run, whether it's throwing the ball or just actually running the ball. Where if you're looking for more of a pocket passer, what Ryan Poles is trying to build around, well, you're seeing more of that with Caleb Williams based on what he's done in college. So that right there is just a really important factor to keep in mind in all this. And it really does make me feel like Ryan Poles' plan was to find what works best for what he is trying to build. He obviously tried to do right with Justin Fields. He gave Justin Fields the opportunity to succeed under what they're trying to do. But I think that evaluation, I think that that evaluation was a lot easier for us than maybe we like to have dreamed it. And again, that's not shitting on Justin, but I think Ryan Poles truly does have a vision here, and he's going through with it.
Yeah, and Justin also got put in a terrible spot, and I'm hoping that he wins out that starting job in Pittsburgh and has a nice career.
I do too. Absolutely. There's no question that he wasn't put in the best spot in many, many occasions.
And but when I'm looking at the quarterbacks in this draft, is we're clearly getting the best college quarterback coming out, the best player that's projecting in the NFL in Caleb Williams. It's hard for me to not put Jaden Daniels as the number 2 quarterback at this point. And there are things that I don't like. The things that make me go, oh, Drake May might be the guy. But Jaden Daniels had a better college resume for more games. And I've heard enough smart people say that the number of games that you start as a college quarterback is important.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, so he played more games, and he had, he earned the Heisman Trophy this year. He's he's phenomenally athletic. I'm going Jaden Daniels. He's a good height. My concerns about him are that uh, he's going to get a little too run happy in the NFL, and he's really reckless when he runs. Like he's going to take a lot of hits, like Cam Newton did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's physically big enough. Like he's tall, but he's 6'4", 210. That is not a big frame. Um, Angel Reese is a Chicago Sky.
Yep. I was just about to bring that up. Just tweeted, "Let's go." Oh
Oh,
my goodness, I'm so excited.
yeah, that's going to be fun next year.
Yeah, man. Oh, those Fever Sky tickets. That Wintrust Arena, it's gonna be full. It's gonna be full to the brim, and it's gonna be awesome. And shout out to my buddy Eric, who's a season ticket holder. He gets to sit courtside and watch that up close and personal. Oh man, I'm jealous of him, but I know I'm gonna go to a few games there. So yeah,
And
that is definitely on my list.
Angel Reese's gown that she is wearing in this draft room is stunning. She's a
Yeah,
beautiful young lady.
and I can't wait for her to suit up for the sky. Gonna be fun. By the way, we're gonna have my buddy Eric Nemchak. We're gonna have him on this show to preview the season in the coming weeks. So we're really excited about that. I just texted him. I said, "Hey, we're uh, we're excited to have you on." So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. So, Drake May, I think he's going to be a pretty good quarterback. And a lot of this is going to be what kind of team you put around him. And Washington I don't think is going to be a bad landing spot. You've got, I think they're a better team than they played last year. Is they traded away a lot of defensive pieces. They they were playing with a bad quarterback. Um, So I think you could be in a decent spot. You've got decent weapons. So I think whoever the Commanders pick with the second pick, whether that's Daniels or May, is going to have the better season than the other one. And I think it's just a toss up of who the Commanders pick is going to
Right.
have the better season of those two, because the Patriots presumably are going to pick the third quarterback in this draft, and um, and they're a hot mess. They don't have weapons. They don't have an offensive line. They don't have a GM. They have an acting GM. Like they're a hot mess. So, somebody's going to go bad there. And I have a feeling that the Commanders are going to go with Jaden Daniels, because with new ownership, they're probably going to want the splashier player. And
Yeah, it would make sense, wouldn't it?
and Jaden Daniels is going to give you some of those Justin Fields highlight plays.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they need something to kind of spark them. And ever since Tom Brady left, you've gone through experiments of Cam Newton, which obviously didn't work. I can't. Did they have Brian Hoyer? I know they had him at some point. I don't know if that was after Brady, but then you had Mac Jones, and obviously that didn't work.
Bailey Zappi.
Bailey Zappi, which was kind of maybe flash in the pan, and then yeah, so they've been looking for a solidified answer for that quarterback position since the great one left, and I feel like they think that if they can get that locked down, then they can have the rest fall in place. Keeping in mind though that it's going to be hard to do what you did with Tom Brady when you had the greatest of all time and you were able to, coach around him and have a team around him where everything can make things work. That's tough, and we'll see how it goes, but yeah, they definitely want to get that they want to get that under their belt, because if they don't have a quarterback, you don't really have much of anything.
Yeah. And but I think Daniels is going to go number 2 just for the ability to sell some tickets, and some of those highlight plays I think are gonna and I think I liken him a lot to what Justin Fields was with the Bears, and I think it's going to be up to the Commanders to do a better job of supporting Jaden Daniels to be successful where the Bears didn't support Justin Fields. Um, and I feel bad for whoever goes to New England. Not saying it won't work out in the long run. I just because there's been quarterbacks that have gone to bad situations that have overcome it, but it's going to be a tough sled.
Yeah, for sure. I think that when we look at this team in the Patriots going forward, one of the things you're going to be looking out for is, okay, what kind of weapons are you going to put around him? And what's your coaching scheme going to be like? You don't have Bill Belichick anymore.
He's busy going to White Sox games.
Yeah, he's hanging out with Ozzie Guillen, which I didn't expect, but hey, he can do whatever the hell he wants. He can have as many of those campfire milkshakes that he wants. But I mean, it's just weird to see, like, for the first time in my football watching life, I'm going to see the New England Patriots without either Tom Brady or Bill Belichick.
It's been a minute.
It's just weird.
It's been a minute. But it's weird. Like this year's quarterback class has the potential to be pretty good, but just like any class, I mean, we looked at the year Justin Fields came out, and we're like, man, this is probably going to be a good class, and it might have been one of the worst.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't want to say Trevor Lawrence is a bust by any means, but he came in as probably the most hyped quarterback prospect we've seen in a long time. I think the only one that was comparable over the past 10, 15 years was Andrew Luck, right?
Yeah, it's comparable there. And um and right. I'm not saying Trevor Lawrence is bad by any stretch, but if you had to go back and look at that production, you'd be like, before the draft, you're like, oh, crystal ball, this is the guy you're getting. You'd be like, huh, huh, you know, uh,
It's
like,
not bad, but it's not spectacular.
yeah. And are you going to be paying that guy $45 million a year? Like that,
Right.
like
It's a lot. You're right.
he's going to be due a big contract either this year or next year. And he's like, he's not been bad, but he's not
He's
not
not
Joe.
Pat Mahomes. He's not
Not
Joe
Pat,
Burrow.
he's not Joe Burrow.
He's not Josh Allen.
Nope. So I don't think he has any hope of being those three guys. And that's not a bad thing. It's not saying it's, like there's plenty of room for that a next tier of quarterbacks because there can only be so many elite quarterbacks. But when you pick number 1, you want an elite quarterback.
I mean, your circle of top 3 right now has got to be Holmes, Burrow, Allen, right? Like that's your top 3 circle right there.
Yeah. I mean,
and Joe Burrow was hurt last year. Don't hold that against him. A healthy Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in this generation.
I mean, obviously, if the 49ers had their choice, they would take Trevor Lawrence over Brock Purdy. But, that's not saying a lot. I mean, Lamar Jackson is better. I would put Trevor Lawrence in the Jared Goff category. He'll put up some gaudy numbers. Is he going to lead you to victory? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I mean, it would be interesting to see because I feel like if Trevor Lawrence was in the Lions Ben Johnson system, then he can really put up some good numbers. But I get what you're getting at there. I definitely I don't think that's crazy. And obviously you have that Kirk Cousins where you're like, okay, the numbers look beyond elite. But when you sit down and you watch him play and you look at the playoff and the big games, you're not on the same level as a Mahomes or a Brady or a Peyton Manning type, but you're still putting up really, really good numbers. And, that's many teams would take that.
Oh,
If you just
absolutely.
based on the raw numbers, I mean, Kirk Cousins, if he was on the Bears, he would be the best Bears quarterback by light years.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I'm not crapping all over Trevor Lawrence. I'm just saying is when you draft a guy number one, especially as hyped as he was, is you expect more. Like I'm going through the list. Are you taking him over Josh Allen?
No,
Are you taking him over Lamar Jackson?
no, not now.
Are you taking him over Jordan Love?
Maybe, probably.
Dak,
I mean, numbers wise, Dak is really good, but he just always crumbles when it matters.
um, Tua.
Tua's got all the talent in the world. It's just, I don't know. Those injuries concern me, but I'd probably slightly lean towards Tua, but not by much.
Okay. Um, Aaron Rodgers.
Probably
Not
take.
not long term, just for next season.
He's 40 years old. He's coming off a major injury. I just don't know what he has left in him. So I'd be tempted to say Lawrence just for the health factor.
Okay. Um, Matt Stafford.
I'd be tempted to go with Stafford. We've seen him win the big games.
It's funny. When he was on the Lions, we all were like, he's such a good quarterback on a bad team. And you put him on a good team, and I think he could be, excellent. He goes to a good team and he wins a Super Bowl. And other than when he was injured, he's putting up really good numbers. We suddenly discount him now that he's with Sean McVay. I think Stafford is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
I think so too. The numbers say that he can be. And the fact that he went to LA and won a Super Bowl, having a Super Bowl on that resume really does help you.
If you are stacking up Matthew Stafford and Eli Manning, Stafford, and you can only put one in the Hall of Fame. Stafford is by far and away the guy.
Numbers wise, yeah. Yes, he is. I mean, obviously we know that Eli Manning won multiple Super Bowls, and the Manning name is just bigger. We know that. But you look at the actual numbers. I mean, how many years on the Lions? You're like, shit, this guy's putting up 4,000 plus, passing yards, 30 plus touchdowns. And as the years went on, you kind of respected him more and more. And then when he won that Super Bowl, he really got the respect that he finally deserved.
And I think he earned a lot of respect last year because you go in, you're like, oh man, Cooper Kupp is hurt. This guy is going to be throwing. The Rams were terrible the year before, and now he's going to be thrown to a guy named Puka Nakua,
Yep.
and Matt Stafford is throwing bombs to Puka Nakua.
Yeah.
And then Cooper Kupp comes back, and it's like they team offensively was really good. And I think a healthy Matt Stafford is a really darn good quarterback.
Yeah.
He would easily be the greatest. I mean, without even question, the greatest quarterback the Bears have ever had in their history of a team.
That would be him. That would be Kirk Cousins. That would be, hell, it'd be Trevor Lawrence even.
It would be Tua.
It'd be Tua, sure. It'd be Brock Purdy.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
You can name almost any starting quarterback and they'd be the Bears' best quarterback in the history of their sad quarterback franchise.
But looking at this draft class of quarterbacks, I'm not saying that they won't have long-term success, like the 81 or 82, where you had like 3 Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the first round. I don't think it's going to be that, but it could be a very good quarterback class historically.
As long as that means Caleb Williams is one of them.
But it could also be another one where one dude is good and the rest of them stink, which is usually the way it goes. And the one guy I kind of like, and I don't think he's going to be like a Hall of Famer by any stretch. I think he's going to be a very serviceable quarterback that plays in the league for a long time. That's underrated, but makes a lot of money. Is Bo Nix.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking at the like an actual draft board that you put together, you don't like bump anybody by positional value. Like quarterbacks go higher because of positional value. Bo Nix is a late second, early third level player, and I have a sneaky hunch he's gonna go in the top 15 this year.
Hey,
because
good.
because I'm looking at this is all right. The Giants, the Giants might take a quarterback. It's going to depend on how in love they fall with one of these guys. But let's say they like JJ McCarthy. They could take a JJ McCarthy.
Could you
Um,
imagine him in the Big Apple?
uh, let's see. Atlanta got their guy. Tennessee's going to try another year, Will Levis. The Bears are by 9. We've already taken their guy. The Jets have hitched their star or their wagon to the Aaron Rodgers star. Minnesota at 11 needs a quarterback. I think they're going to trade up.
I mean, there is a lot of signs pointing to that. Obviously, we'll see if that actually happens or not, but it feels like there's a good chance they will. And there was a rumor. I was listening to the radio on my way to work this morning, and they were talking about how if you trade up to like a number 5, you're going to be paying like 3 first rounders. So like
Yeah.
there, if the Vikings want to move up, they're going to have to pay a big price.
My my hope as a Bears fan trying for the Vikings to fall flat is they worry that the Giants are going to draft a quarterback. So they move up to 4 or 5 and trade the 2 first rounders they have this year, next year's first, and maybe an extra pick somewhere along the way, like a third or fourth, to move up and then to draft the 4th quarterback in this draft. That's my
I
hope.
I just wonder what they're willing to give up, because I think that there's an understanding that this year you have a pretty solid draft class in quarterbacks, where currently next year doesn't project to be that special in terms of quarterbacks. So,
You know what? And I'm gonna from right now, I 100% agree with you. But every year there's a quarterback that takes that huge jump.
of course, it's
Like
just there's just a lot of uncertainty of who that's going to be.
yeah, like
Do you want to
last
wait for that potentially?
yeah, like Jaden Daniels at this time last year, nobody would have been talking about as a
No.
top guy. He took that huge jump. Um, and so, but it's always a gamble because like last year you could look forward. You're like, there's Caleb Williams. We see him. We saw what he did his sophomore year, and from his freshman year to sophomore year, and we're anticipating for his junior year. I don't know who you have in that Quinn Ewers. Like I don't know who you have, but somebody will take that jump. But it's do you want to burn a whole year to potentially have a awful quarterback class?
Right, exactly. That's the question that you ask is, are you willing to take that chance? And I feel like the Vikings do, I mean, they signed Sam Darnold, right? And, you know, that's not going to be your long-term solution by any means, but I think they are prepared to have that veteran behind center for a season. But either way, I mean, at most, you'd probably want him to be insurance or at least your veteran QB1, even if you draft a guy behind him. I just do the if you're the Vikings, do you want to go into next season with not having a young quarterback and a mystery draft class coming up in the following year. It's a big risk to take.
I have, from another angle, I 100% agree with you. But uh, if you're um, if you're Justin Jefferson and you're the Vikings, if the Vikings go in there and like Sam Darnold's your quarterback, the final year of your contract, Justin Jefferson, um, are and we're trying to re-sign you, is that a good way to keep Justin Jefferson by having Sam Darnold be his quarterback? I think if you go into the season with Sam Darnold, you're saying that you're going to hit the reset button next year because you're probably not planning to have Justin Jefferson.
If you don't draft a quarterback for the future.
Yeah, but if you go in with Sam Darnold as the guy without having, if you could draft a guy and you're like, hey, this is the guy waiting in the wings. Okay, that's a different story. But if you don't draft a guy that's either going to step in this right now, day one, or you drafted early enough to project as your starter at some point in the season or at latest week one next year, how do you sell that to Justin Jefferson?
It's tough. It's tough. I mean, unless you kind of lay out a plan, a long-term plan, and he buys into it, but you'll definitely have to do your work to sell that.
So I'm hoping the Vikings just absolutely trade up, and I hope they get the wrong dude. That's my hope.
Nah, Williams will be a bust. He'll get the right dude. We know how this ends, right?
Let's see. The Broncos are in a tough spot because they do not have any ammunition to trade up. They would love to trade up. They don't have a first rounder next year. They don't have a second rounder this year. I don't know if they have a second rounder next year.
They'll trade up with they'll sell John Elway's soul.
Like the Broncos are stuck at that 12 spot. And I have just an absolute gut feeling that that's where Bo Nix goes. Bo Nix goes number 12.
I could see it.
And Sean Payton is going to say, yeah, sure. We drafted a guy way too early, but you know what? I'm going to make this guy a Pro Bowler. He's going to take it upon himself. I'm going to make this guy a Pro Bowler.
Yeah. I could totally see it.
The Raiders would probably love to pick a quarterback, but I don't think they're going to trade up for one.
Is Jimmy G still under contract with them?
No, I think he signed as the backup for the Rams.
Oh yeah, he went somewhere. I totally lost track of Jimmy G.
Yeah, he 49ers backup.
Right.
Wait, was it 49ers? No, sorry, it was Rams. It's Rams.
It was Rams. Yeah, I was gonna say he didn't go back to the 49ers.
No. It was the Rams. But yeah, he's a backup.
Oh, he's hanging around the West Coast. He's making his rounds around the West Coast.
But this is all my roundabout way of saying that the Bears at 9, who is looking to trade up? The Vikings are going to go up earlier than 9. The Broncos don't have anything to give you. They have a similar draft as you. I think they have a first and a third this year and no first next year. So what's the point of trading with them? I don't know if the Raiders are desperate enough to trade up. Who else is trying to trade up for somebody? So maybe the Dolphins or the Eagles would want to trade up if somebody fell that they wanted. Like Eagles need a cornerback if they're cornerback, but are you going to trade back to 22?
Yeah.
So I think the Bears should just stay at 9 and guarantee that they get a guy that they want.
Yeah. I think so too. But hey, you know what? The NFL draft is always full of surprises.
It is. And, just my last thing I want to say about it is that the two positions you just absolutely have to walk away from this draft from are somebody opposite Montez Sweat as a pass rusher
Mm-hmm.
and a wide receiver, like a
Well, you need
top.
a center too.
You've if you get a center, that's awesome. But you've got two guys that are going to compete, and you've got a Doug Kramer who's a big question mark. Um,
Mm.
so, and the two best centers in this draft are probably going to go in the first round or early second round. So you don't have any hope of getting either one of those.
Mm.
So there's a guy that I kind of like that'll probably be there at 122. And it's Bo Limmer, the center from Arkansas. Um, if you look at his like RAS score is like, which is, we're finding that Ryan Poles is huge on. Are you familiar with the RAS score?
I don't really know how it works, but I know what it is.
Yeah, I don't know how they calculate it, but it's basically like everybody at, your position, they rank you like on a 0 to 10 based on your athleticism. Nothing to do with your play. It's actual just your athleticism. And Bo Limmer is like a 9.86 at center. So he's like one of the most athletic centers ever.
Hmm.
Um, so, like I would take a flyer on that guy with the 122nd pick, because I don't know what else is going to be there that you're like desperate for. So that's my sleeper pick of guys. But, wide receiver, there's a ton of them. There's like a lot of wide receivers that are going to go. I mean, there's a possibility that the first round has 8 or 9 wide receivers.
Yeah.
And by the second round, we could have 16 wide receivers. And so if you Bears wait until the third round for a wide receiver, they're going to get somebody that's talented, but it might be a traits guy rather than a top end player, a fast guy or a tall guy or, a guy that had injury history, but was really good otherwise. Or a guy that was really awesome, except he had too many drops and you have to work on that. Or he's a body catcher. Like there's going to be something that is either a trait guy or they're a something bad that you have to overcome guy. And so if they go one of the big three, like you're like, okay, we solidify that, but then that edge rusher pool drops off pretty quickly.
Right. Right.
Like they may not get a pass rusher in the with that number 75 pick or whatever the 70 something. But if you go early with an edge rusher, there's going to be a wide receiver that is talented, but I don't know how they'll project in the NFL. And so it's a tough sled there. I this would have been a year to love to have the second round pick again.
Yeah, I know.
It would have changed how this worked completely.
Yep. But hey, if I had the choice between the first overall and a 9, I mean,
Oh, it's not a bad spot to be in. It just would have been nice to have the 33rd pick or whatever.
oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt.
Yeah. But then we're talking about getting, the potential to trade up and get, one of those edge rushers, those big three edge rushers, either Leatu Latu, Dallas Turner, or Jared Verse. One of them is going to fall into the 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way the board is set up with wide receivers, quarterbacks, and cornerbacks going, one of them is going to slide. If you're the Bears and you were at 33, you could package, your third round pick. If you had a second rounder, move up and get one of those guys plus a Roma Dunze plus Caleb Williams, and you walk away from this draft just strutting down the street.
Mm-hmm.
But it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah. And the last thing I want to say is the Bears, looking at last year, how many players the Bears drafted out of their top 30 visits. and they're bringing in, the guys you're looking at. They brought in the big three wide receivers and then a couple of later round receivers, the big three edge rushers, a couple of edge rushers further down, and then uh, the best two centers in the draft, um, and some cornerbacks, which was surprising,
And Caleb Williams.
and Caleb Williams. The only, uh, he that was they brought him in, and that was the only top 30 visit he went on.
Yeah.
So
Everyone and their mother knows that Caleb Williams is going to the Bears.
and I'm going to ensure that he's a great quarterback because I am not getting a Caleb Williams jersey.
Yeah, neither am I.
Not,
That's
not doing it.
yeah, yeah.
So, it's if I'm a betting man here. The cornerbacks they're looking at are probably the third and fourth round kind of guys, but I don't know if they're trying to see if they can convert one of those to a safety. Oh, and they brought in one safety. But I have a feeling that 9 and 75 are going to be some combination of wide receiver and edge rusher.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my guess. Did you have any more Bears talk that you wanted to do?
Nope.
Want to move on to baseball?
Sure, we can move on to baseball.
You want to talk north or south side?
Well, why don't we start with the Cubs because there's some good, and today we had some really, really bad news.
Yeah, we had some terrible news today.
So why don't you just get the bad out of the way?
Yeah, Seiya Suzuki is going on the 10-day IL with an oblique strain.
That's bad. He missed almost 2 months due to an oblique strain last year.
Yeah.
And that's where you kind of, that's part of your swing. That's, you move and that's bad.
Yep.
That is really bad. But what you hope for is Canario comes up. Can he supplement some of that power? Can you get some of the production with your depth? Suzuki has been the engine that has driven this team. He has been key to the success of this ball club. But it's time for others on this team to step up.
Namely our big free agent.
Yeah, Cody Bellinger has not straight up not been good. And I'm giving him a little leeway. He didn't have a normal spring training. He signed late, trying to work his way back. I'm not going to shit on him too much for it, but the time is going to come where he's going to start needing to produce again. Like that's essential. And you want, I think Nico's hitting to some really tough luck. The OBP is still really good. He's hitting to some tough luck, but eventually you're going to want that to even itself out. Dansby Swanson has hit fine overall. You want him to be a bit more consistent there. And then obviously Morel has had a rough road trip since the Grand Slam in San Diego, but hopefully he could bounce back. But boy, I mean, the other story besides Seiya being really good has been Michael Busch. He's been insanely, insanely good. And you hope they can keep it up for a little while longer because young guy, rookie, okay, teams are going to adjust eventually, and he's going to have to counter adjust. So hopefully you can ride that rookie hot hand for a bit, and then hopefully Canario brings you some power, and just some of the other guys in the lineup just start, hitting a little more consistently. I mean, they've been scoring 8+ runs a game for a really good stretch. You knew that wasn't going to sustain, but so much of that was due to Ian Happ drawing walks, Seiya Suzuki hitting, Michael Busch hitting, and just some timely hits from other areas. But you're going to need some of these other guys to step up and be more consistent because really the amazing thing about how good they were offensively for that stretch is Cody Bellinger really wasn't much of a factor. Sure, he drew an occasional walk, but that was about it.
Yeah, he's not doing much. And like you said, very, very short spring training, and it's the early part of the season. Um, I think he'll be fine. But Michael Bush, it's at some point it's going to even out because he's not going to maintain averaging 327 with an 1100 OPS for the whole season.
No, but I think there's some promise there.
Oh, I'm not saying he's going to bottom out. I'm just saying that it's that's that would be a ridiculously good rookie year.
Yeah, that slump is going to happen. There's going to be that adjustment period. That's natural for any young ball player. It's going to
Yeah.
happen.
Morel has been pretty good. And the glove is starting to get better.
Boy, it's that other night in Seattle, he literally saved the game with the diving stop to get the out and then the catch over his head.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna temper my pooping on his fielding abilities. Um, we're gonna see some errant throws every now and then, but I think to keep him at third base um, is gonna be worth it.
It also doesn't help that as for well as Michael Bush can hit, the defense is less to be desired.
Yeah. Um, Talkman is the best 192 hitter in baseball.
I know because he gets on base, and even when he doesn't get on, it's like he has a good at bat every single time.
Yeah, it's a great at bat. Uh, I mean, a guy hitting 192 has an 652 OPS.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So, uh, it's nice having Talkman in there. Hap has been, he's had some lulls, but he's been important for this offense this season.
Gets on base, draws walks, has good at bats too.
Yeah, he's been the best leadoff hitter the Cubs have had in a while.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I like the way that this order has been, to be honest with you. Hap leading off, Suzuki second, Bellinger, then Morel. I probably would at this point put Bush behind Morel and then Swanson, but it's been working.
Yeah, it just this injury to Seiya sucks so much.
Hopefully, fingers crossed that it's just the 10 days.
I doubt it.
I doubt
It's
it.
it's an oblique strain. Even let's say he misses, like I feel like best case scenario is like 3 weeks, and that's best case scenario.
Yeah, so
It's just, and I'm no doctor, so we'll see. 10 days seems sanely unlikely to me.
I mean, I'm just going to throw this out there. I have no idea. What if it was he pulled up and it was, he felt the pain there, and they're like, you know what, based on last season, we're going to be safe rather than sorry, and we're just going to give him some time off because we can't lose him for however long we did last year.
I'd like to think that.
I'm going to think positive.
Yeah. I mean, it's the other side. It was the other side of the oblique last year, for what it's worth. So it's re-injuring the same tissue type. It's just not the same spot.
I'm going to look at this as glass half full.
Sean's glass tips over and spills all over the place.
But we are getting Tyone back.
Yeah, I mean, we need some pitching depth here.
And, Justin Steele is not that far away. And Patrick Wisdom is looked good in AAA in his rehab stint.
Yeah, and I tweeted earlier tonight, I'm like, listen, it's not ideal, but if you can at least supplement some of that missing power from Suzuki in the form of Wisdom hitting tanks and Canario hitting home runs. You're not going to get the OBP. You're going to get a lot more holes in the swing. But if you can get at least that power type production from these other guys, then at least it's something. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping Canario comes up looking good and making the Cubs regret sending him down at the end of spring training.
Well, I
Half
hope so too.
glass, half full.
Suzuki was doing it all. He was hitting for power. He was drawing walks. He was getting single. He was doing everything offensively.
Yeah,
And every
absolutely.
time there was an RBI opportunity, he came through in some spot. He'd either get a base hit or he'd hit a sac fly. God, this sucks. And I will say this, if it's any consolation, we have a very tough series coming up with the Diamondbacks. That place is hell on earth for the Cubs, and these West Coast trips have been hell on earth. You have no idea how sick I was when I woke up last Tuesday and after going to bed when they were up 8-0 on the Padres and seeing them lose 9-8, that I literally wanted to call off work and throw up all day. But
I watched it happen,
uh,
and at a certain point, I'm like, they're gonna lose this. I'm turning it off because it was like 8-5 at that point. I'm like, I'm turning this off. Maybe I'm jinxing them, and they'll stop the bleeding and hold out. And I'm like, I would rather they lost by 10 than to lose by one.
yeah, yeah.
And coming in, you know, I forgot who started that one. Was it a
There was
Saab?
Assad,
Yeah, and he gave up the
who's been
home run.
awesome.
He pitched great, and then he gave up that solo shot. Yeah, okay, get him out of there and come in and just shut this down and take this victory. And they bring in Quas, who just has been abysmal this year.
Yeah, and I kind of believed in him going into this year, but it has not worked out. So now maybe they find something in AAA, but he couldn't keep pitching on the big league club right now. Um, but this bullpen, man, I mean,
Quas was just when he came in, you throwing to that first batter, you're like, that's it. He's gonna get crushed.
yep,
He couldn't find the plate, and when he did, he was just serving up just meatballs.
yeah, yeah. Meat, and meatballs.
And once they finally took him out, it was nobody was gonna make it. They were on a roll.
Right. Yeah. And it's too bad that you couldn't get the last 5 outs with Alzolay. Hopefully he's finding form. He looked really good in the save yesterday, but and in the day before too, it's just you saw early on, it's almost like he was pitching to contact, and it's like, dude, you're a closer. You need to blow smoke by guys. And yesterday was more encouraging, no doubt, but you kind of hope that all comes together more consistently. The other bullpen piece that's obviously been worrisome has been Hector Neris, because not only is his command off, but his movement is down and his velocity is down. And hopefully he'll kind of come back and regain form because the dude's a good pitcher, but even in spring training, it was like, yeah, what's going on here? And he's the second most important guy in your bullpen.
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, so far the best guy, the two best guys, one was Julian Merriweather. Oh, by the way, he's out for a while. But just keep hoping we keep seeing lights out be lights out.
Yeah, it's we're lighter is going to be so important.
Yeah. You know what? You know who frustrates me is Yency Almonte, because he's got good stuff, but he can't consistently locate it. Like we saw the other night when they won 4-1, Yency Almonte came by and he was just blowing shit by people. And then yesterday, he's walking everybody. And it's like you throw mid 90s fastball with great tail and you throw a sharp breaker, but when you fall behind guys, he's all over the place. You just want that consistency.
But the Cubs did sign another pitcher.
Yes, yes, they did.
I mean, he pitches the ball. Um,
Yes, he does. He
he
does throw baseballs off a mound
yes, he is, and he's done it professionally for money.
for money. He's done it professionally for money.
Uh, yeah. So those are words that are factual.
Yes. And he was at one point pretty good.
Yes, but that point was in the past and
Yes.
not in the um
Near present.
yeah. So
Julio Teheran is who we're talking about, folks.
yes, who is 33, and what's he done? What's he done here?
He was with the Brewers last year, and he started off really good, and then he kind of regressed. And then I think he had one start with the Mets this year, and it didn't go so hot.
Uh yeah, he was with the Mets this year. So is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be like a long reliever?
Well, he'll be in AAA to start, so we'll see.
Yeah.
It's a minor league deal.
Um
To me, it's just organization depth.
Possibly. I mean, he's familiar with Craig Counsell.
Yes, he is.
Um so I'm sure that aided somewhere along the way. Um, I mean, it wasn't a great run with the Brewers.
Started off good, and then it went.
Yeah,
I mean, if anything, if he is part of the major league team at some point, it feels like you're just kind of picking up innings here. Nothing more. Just innings. Look how
yeah.
hard this bullpen's had to work.
I think. I mean, honestly, is he brought in because they're concerned that if Kyle Hendricks has another duck that he throws out there, that they're gonna have to replace him?
But here's the thing, you're getting Tyone and Steele back.
Fair, but we also don't know what Tyone we're getting.
Yes, that's true. I would hope Tyone would be more reliable than the current form of Julio Teheran. But I don't know what we're gonna get. I felt really good about Tyone after the second half last year, but when you have an injury like this, it's a little complicated, so we don't know. But
Is
we do have to have a serious talk though.
Kyle Hendricks?
Yes.
He's been brutal.
Yeah.
And I know we've had this conversation before and we were ready to launch him from a trebuchet, but he came back and we're like, "Oh, okay. All right." He found some semblance of the fountain of youth, and I don't know if that's going to be the case this time.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. We know Kyle Hendricks is a notorious slow starter. Um, this just it doesn't look quite like the slow starts of the past. This looks particularly strugglish, and the fact that you have it's part of the factor is that you have a deeper pitching staff now in your organization, and Ben Brown has come up. How much he'll pitch, we'll see. Maybe down the road you see Cade Horton, but now that you have Tyone coming back and Justin Steele coming back, and I think right now, as of right this second, you would be nuts to say Kyle Hendricks stay in the rotation, Javier Assad go back to the bullpen. I think you'd be nuts to do
Oh
that
yeah,
right now.
absolutely. And you can't put Kyle Hendricks in the bullpen. He's not a bullpen pitcher.
Unless you try to make him the right-handed Drew Smiley, but he wouldn't be high leverage by any means.
No, especially not when this season, where was I just at? His home runs per nine are pushing four. It's 3.55. That's terrible.
I mean, it's batting practice. And the thing with him is like his last two starts were against the Padres and the Dodgers. He'll still have those one or two innings where he's really sharpened on his game and then just because honestly, like this first maybe 3, 4 innings in San Diego looked pretty effective. Even the 2 runs that scored, they were like none of those balls were hit hard. They were little dinks and bloops. And then you got to the middle innings and he was just getting absolutely teed off. It wasn't bad luck that time. It wasn't misfortune. He was in the middle innings, he was throwing batting practice and he was getting teed. So
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is, but when everybody is healthy, Steele is back, Tyone is back, there's not room for him. And he's going to be the odd man out because he's been the only guy that has not looked good at all.
right. It's been one of those things where you say, hey, the guy we trusted for a long time is now our least trusted hitter.
Um, but I mean, and the good news is this is a really shitty road trip to go on. It's a tough one. And they've the record has been for this type of road trip has been pretty good.
We'll just see how Arizona goes. I fucking hate playing in Arizona.
I do too, but
Things rarely go right in that stupid hangar ballpark. I
I'm
don't hate the Diamondbacks. I just it always just seems to go bad there.
I'm just if as long as they don't get swept and they come home, I'm okay. They had an abysmal record against the Diamondbacks last year.
Yeah, they only had one win. That cost them the postseason.
Yeah,
And remember, they got swept in Arizona. It did that horrific, aggravating, gut-wrenching sweep took place there. So yeah, it's kind of how I went into the Dodgers series where I'm like, yo, just secure one win and just don't have it be a complete disaster. Because if there is some solace, I'm not saying the rest of the month is a cakewalk schedule, but it's not quite as grueling,
you get 4 against the Marlins.
which is both encouraging and worrisome. Because how many times have we seen the Cubs or a Chicago team have a gimme series and they just lay a fucking egg?
That's true. That is very true. But
So hopefully you take care of business there. You play the Astros, which on normal circumstances would be really hard, but they're not playing as hot so far. So it's still going to be a very tough series. It's not going to be a cakewalk. It's not going to be easy. They're going to be a real tough out, but it, it, it's it's not like when you went into the series against the Dodgers. We're like, oh man, how are we going to do this?
yeah, I mean, then you get the Red Sox who are not that great either.
You
They're
can you
like a
can beat
500 ball club.
you can beat Boston. I mean, there's a lot of chinks in that armor, and they're a beatable team. They're not an awful team, but they're beatable.
Yeah, same with the Mets.
Yes.
Mets are a 500 team, and then it's the Brewers.
Yeah.
That's where that's where you got to put your big boy pants on.
The Brewer, everything's going right for them. Everything.
It's not sustainable.
Ugh,
It's
I feel
not
like
sustainable.
I say that every year. Every year they're overachieving. They're going to come back down, and then they win 95 games.
They're on pace. They're on a 714 winning percentage. They're gonna come crashing down, just like the Cardinals are not going to go win at 43% this year. Um, is this is good? The tides are going to change. Is
Well, it's a little harder now that our best hitter is out, but
Yeah, but our best pitcher's coming back.
yes, yes.
Is the Cubs are on pace to win 97 games. All they can do is if they can keep winning at this pace, they're going to win the division. I don't see the Brewers winning more than 97 games.
You think the Cubs are going to win 97 games?
That's the pace they're on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the The Brewers are on pace to win 116. We know that's not
Well,
happening.
I know they're not going to do that, but I just the Brewers offense, man. Jackson Chourio looks like the real deal. Christian Yelich is healthy again. William Contreras looks like an MVP. That looks like a steal in that three-way trade. The Brewers came out the best of those three teams. And they just find that Freddie Peralta's still good. They just find pitching. They just know how to get it done.
I'm still not buying them as legit. Maybe they are. It's it's tax day. It's April 15th. I'm just not buying them yet.
All right, I'm a little worried about them. And when it comes to the Reds, there's chinks in that armor,
Yeah.
but Ellie De La Cruz is a beast. Spencer Steer is a beast. They got some real talent on that team. But there are chinks in that armor over there.
It's the same chinks that the Pirates are going to have. Is you could have these young players coming up, and eventually you got to pay them, and you won't pay them, and then you just go back into the rebuild mode. So I just don't buy the Pirates and the Reds as legit contenders ever until they can show me that they can sustain with building talent and then keeping talent.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the long term, yes, but this year itself.
But the thing is these teams, they don't want to spend at the trade deadline to bolster where the chinks in their armor are.
The Pirates don't, but the Reds will make a big trade.
I think the Reds just have more holes than the Pirates. The Pirates are a little more scary because their pitching staff is all young.
And look at Paul Skeens.
Yeah, I think their average starting pitcher is like 27 years old.
Yeah, that pitching's a problem. And when Paul Skeens comes up, it's going to be a bigger problem.
And that's why they're the bigger problem, because if they have all of those pitchers under control, they'll be sustained more. But I don't believe in their bats. If you could combine the Pirates and the Reds into one super team, that'd be a hell of a team.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But luckily they play in two mid cities.
Well, you're really drinking the Cubs Kool-Aid.
I'm not. It's just a huge bonus that the Cubs play in the division that they do. Is the Cardinals spend money, the Cubs spend money, the Brewers spend mid amount of money, but the Pirates and Reds just don't spend money. So you've got every year two teams that just, that they're never going to be like this sustained contender because they don't spend money. That's a huge bonus. So
right, they have spurts, but
yeah. So it's when you go in, you're like the Cubs will spend every year because they make money. And so you have this leg up on everybody. So it's partly, yeah, they spend, gives them the leg up. And so I think they have a pretty good roster. They've got a really good manager, and they're going to be willing to trade at the deadline because I think they have a lot of guys that they're willing to part with that will get them some good players. So as long as they are striking distance at the trade deadline, I just think the Cubs are just going to make a huge push.
I hope you're right.
We're already seeing a lot of things just going wrong with injuries, but
injuries are happening all over the place, though. It ain't just the Cubs.
We could have a Strider situation where, his second Tommy John, which is bad news.
Yeah,
man. So, or we could have a team that's so bad that we can't give our fans wins, so we give them diabetes.
Don't you mean diabetes?
Diabetes. Yeah. So, you look up and down the National League, and The Dodgers are you've beat the Dodgers. Um, I'm not a big believer. If I mean, I think the Brewers aren't bad, but I don't think they're gonna. I think they're gonna have a bad run here at some point. The mean is gonna catch up to them. I think the Braves are gonna start playing. They're playing good, but I think they're gonna start playing better. But I the National League I think is fairly open, much more open than I was expecting it to be. And I'm saying this on April 15th.
Yeah, we'll see. I think the Phillies are kind of off to a slow start. I think they'll kind of get back in. I think that when you look at the East as a whole, even losing Spencer Strider, it's probably the Braves are still the favorite, but you can
Yeah,
still see the Phillies make it, obviously, with their firepower that they have. Um,
I think the Mets are they're gonna drop. I don't think they're gonna be very good overall by the end of the season. The Nationals are not good. The
no.
Marlins are abysmal. It's gonna be the Braves winning that division with the Phillies fighting for the wild card. Um, I think it's gonna be Cubs and Brewers fighting for that division win. And the Dodgers I think, are gonna run away with that division at some point, but it's gonna be
Yeah, I mean, we've seen chinks in their armor so far, but I think they'll hit their stride and
yeah, they're they're gonna I think they're gonna win the division. They're not the superpower I thought they were going to be. And that could all change if Otani starts going on some torrid pace of home runs. Um,
I don't even think that's the issue. It just seems like their pitching and bullpen hasn't been that good.
no, but we've all seen the Barry Bonds effect when Barry Bonds was just like a one man wrecking crew when he was doubling his dose of roids. Uh, he that made that team so unbeatable. It didn't matter what anybody else was doing. Oh, can't pitch, doesn't matter. Barry Bonds is going to hit 4 home runs today. Uh, I think I think there's baseball is tough to have one guy carry the load, but we've seen guys just go on these incredible runs where they carry the load. Like, remember the Daniel Murphy run that one year
Mm-hmm.
and just buoyed the team, So I think Otani can do that, and they're not a team that needs a big buoy. It's just going to be who's going to be the second best team in that division. I mean, it's not the Rockies.
It'll
I
be
don't.
it'll probably be between the Padres and the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. The Padres.
I don't believe in the Giants that much.
No, I don't either. And the Padres, I didn't believe in, but after watching them play the Cubs, at one point I was like, man, this team is not good. But when they made that comeback, then they all look like an actual team. And
Yeah, something sparked there.
yeah, so if they play with that spark, I think they could be the one that wins that division and fights for a wild card. But things can change. It's a
There's
long way to
such a
go.
long season, yeah.
But I like the parity in the NL. The AL's the other one. The Yankees are just killing everybody.
Yeah, boy, does Juan Soto look good in a Yankee uniform. Man.
I know. Kind of makes me wish we would have traded for him.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, obviously you got the Yankees, the Rays are good.
Orioles are good.
Orioles are good. They still have some pitching to figure out, but I think it'll come around. Obviously, I think Jackson Holiday will get settled in as well. They just called him up.
That
Um,
AL East is five pretty darn good teams.
yeah, yeah. Because like Boston might not be a bad team, but they just might look, quote, bad in comparison to some of the others.
Yeah, like the AL West is mid. The Guardians are playing really well. And so are the Royals.
Yeah, and the Tigers even have had their spurts of looking pretty solid. You watch Tariq Skubal, you ever watch him pitch?
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
The Twins don't look very good, and the White
Twins
Sox
look like shit.
and the White Sox are just next level bad.
Yeah, the White Sox. Yeah. I going into White Sox talk, I have one
I have one more thing I want to say about the Cubs.
Yes, go for it.
Ken Holtzman died today.
Yeah, yeah. Fun fact, my dad was 9 years old at Wrigley Field. He saw one of his no-hitters.
Oh, that's cool.
I think it was one against the Braves. And that was where the wind was blowing in and Hank Aaron hit what looked like a home run to end the no-hitter, but the wind just blew it back and Billy Williams caught it right in the well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Dude was a hell of a good pitcher.
He was very good. 78 years old.
Yeah, rest in peace, Mr. Holtzman. And I know they had it looks like they put a memorial for Ken Holtzman on the marquee, so much deserved. He was part of the ball club, part of that 69 team and was a fan favorite. Obviously, he was the next best pitcher to Fergie, so he was your bona fide number two on that team.
Yeah, he was a very good pitcher, so it's rest in peace to him and condolences to his family.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and one more quick note. The next time we go to Wrigley Field, you will see a nice big Coca-Cola sign across the street.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. I like to think if somebody hits the sign, it lights up and it sprays just gallons fountain of Coca-Cola into the air. And the neighborhood's like, oh no, now it's all sticky and sugary and the bees are gonna come.
The bees.
Oh no, the bees.
But yeah, the other side of town is just another story. That's a bad baseball team. And they're bad at every facet of the game. Their injuries bad. Their base running bad. Their fielding is bad. Their hitting is bad. Everything is bad.
Here's my question that I want to ask more than anything about the Sox. Isn't this a good opportunity to see what some guys like, say, Oscar Colas can bring you? Like a player that may or may not be something for the future? Like, why is Martin Maldonado starting all these games when you have Corey Lee on the roster? What good does it to either DH or bench Corey Lee if you want to see what he can do?
I
What are you gaining from Martin Maldonado starting back there at this point?
I don't know. I mean, he's bad. Uh, I mean, you just have a terrible manager too. Like, I don't know what the solution is here. You've got a bunch of has-beens and a bunch of never will be's, and you've got young players that are not ready to come up. I know I've heard people call for Colson Montgomery, but
It's
why?
not going to happen.
Why are you going to like put him in this position?
They're not going to exceed his rookie status this year.
It just doesn't make sense for the team, and it doesn't make sense for him.
No, I mean the guy is getting his swing back in the minors right now, so you don't want to do him a disservice by doing that. But there are guys in the organization on the team that should be getting that time. Like, I think Corey Lee should be catching most days. I think you should see what you have in Oscar Colas. I mean, even if you don't have anything, now's the time to figure it out.
I would rather lose with young players that you're trying to figure out if they can play than guys that can't play.
Well, right. I mean, what good does having Robbie Grossman in there do at this point?
Nothing.
Or Kevin Pillar. You're bringing in Tommy Pham, which, if you want to make the argument, maybe you bring him in and he hits well and you can trade him for something at the deadline. At least you have a potential for that to happen.
But
so
here's the problem. is every time you bring one of these guys in, these old players, you're getting rid of somebody on your 40-man roster that's young.
You're right.
How many guys have they traded for bag of balls or cash consideration that for a 200-year-old decrepit player? Why
You
are you
didn't
doing that?
didn't they not just trade a legitimate prospect away so they could bring garbage ass Mike Clevenger back?
They absolutely did. I believe they got rid of 3 players that just to get rid of them to make room. And like it doesn't make any sense to me. It's really frustrating as like as a baseball fan that this is the way that this team is run. Is my friend Gary's been on a tear with the GM of the White Sox, and he keeps referring to him as the definition of failing up.
Mm.
And to be fair, what has he done to prove that wrong? I mean, I know
Well,
he's
I
not been
mean,
put in a good position, but I
we
I
don't
mean,
really know what his plan is here.
is what has he done to make us think that he could do a good job at some point? I know that he's got a lot of hurdles that he has to overcome, like not being able to pay anybody, not being able to go after good free agents, you know, not, a farm system that's far away. Uh, like, but what has he done of the moves he could make that you're like, okay, I, I'm I'm seeing something there, potential here.
The most we can look for right now is, and I think the biggest positive I can point to is that one pitcher they got from San Diego in that Cease trade is looking pretty good in the minors so far. But, we're still early in on that, and we'd like to see the results in the majors. But I mean, right now, you look at the situation and you're like, what are we doing here? I mean, that's the biggest thing. What are we doing here? If you came into the season and, like you said, you just had a bunch of young guys and you're trying to see what you have, that's one thing. Like that's more accepting. Um, but now you're just like, what, like you refuse to do the rebuild, say the word rebuild. In 2017, 2018, the White Sox lost like 99 plus games each of those years, but everybody knew what the plan was. So it was accepted. This, they're being so weird about it.
Yeah. Um, so it's it's just been an awful rough ride, right to this point.
Now, like I said, hopefully, so because you will see some of these younger pitchers. You saw Nick Nastrini tonight; he looked really good. Maybe you'll see Thorpe come up, and you might see some promise with the young pitchers. It's just when you look at the lineup, and again, I don't know what Oscar Colas is or isn't in the majors, but I just feel like now would be the time to try to figure that out. Like you don't need him to prove anything more in the minors. We know he can hit in the minor leagues.
Yeah, and Drew Thorpe, the guy that they got in for the Cease trade, he's looked really good. He's in Double A though, so you know
He's
uh,
working his way up. Yeah,
he's working his way up. So it's he's 23. Maybe we see him by the end of the year. I doubt it. Um, but
I
uh,
wouldn't be surprised if we did. I think there were a lot of people speculating we could.
I, late call up. You're not gonna burn his rookie year.
Probably not.
Um, but yeah, this has just been abysmal. And Andrew Benintendi has been on every single level a complete and utter failure this year.
I don't get what happened to him. Is he hurt? Is he not well?
And in the top, the fact that he is not hitting is his fielding has been awful.
Well, he's got a complete noodle of an arm.
I don't even I think Noodles would be upset that you compared them to Andrew Benintendi.
They come out of the pot. What did you just say?
Yeah, it is. It is just bad. It is bad. Benintendi, let's see. His OPS is 415. His OBP is 226.
Hmm.
Vaughn is not much better.
Vaughn's been struggling so far this year. And he's better than that. That's one guy you can, I mean, like Benintendi and Vaughn are the two guys you could point to. Where like, we know you're better than that.
Yeah, I mean, if you take Gavin Sheets, we all want to crap on Gavin Sheets. Why is he on this team? He's been by far their best hitter.
Far and away, yeah, he's been good so far.
But let's take away Gavin Sheets. I'm going through their starting lineup today. Is Grossman's OPS is 618. Benintendi's is 415. Vaughn is 464. Sosa's 457. Fletcher's 674. Schumann is 631. Maldonado's 191 OPS.
Mm.
A one. I get that he's a defensive catcher, not an offensive catcher. You cannot have a 191 OPS.
Well, and the thing too is his defense has really dipped over the past year. Even last year with the Astros, because he's old. He's got a lot of miles on him.
And Nicky Lopez's OPS is 355.
Mm.
Uh,
He was always a glove first bat.
yeah, that's still bad.
It's abysmal, but yeah.
His what's his on base here? His on base is 220. That's not good. This is not. I mean, if you're telling me you batting 220 and you're getting on 300 and you're a good glove, okay. But and it's funny because we all thought that the offense would be okay and the starting pitching would just be abysmal. And the starting pitching has just not been that bad. Sure, they've had a couple rough, but like overall, they have been, compared to what our fears were, they've not been that bad.
No.
Um, I, so I want to. It's really hard to, we keep saying it's April 15th, that there's a long way to go. But what's the old saying? You don't win the division in April, but you can lose it in April.
Yeah, you can't dig a hole. That is the thing I am pounding here is you can't dig a hole like last year.
They have built a historically bad hole. And it's very early on, but if you project this winning percentage across the whole season, do you know how historically bad that is?
Yeah, I saw the numbers. It's not yeah. It's Cleveland Spiders-esque.
It is. In the so the team with the most losses in MLB history is the 1962 New York Mets. They
And
lost.
You're talking an 162 game season.
This is only 160. So I went by. There's teams that had really bad loss or win numbers, but it was hard to find, because they played less games.
Right,
so I looked at most losses, and it gave a better picture because it was closer. So the Mets only played 160 games that year, but it's comparable. So the Mets lost 120 games. They were 40 and 120. The White Sox are on pace to be 21 and 141. They would, if they keep this pace, they will beat the loss records by 21 games.
Yeah, and we know it's not going to be that bad, right?
I mean, we saw a really bad team. Now, I mean, I guess it's been 20 years now, but the 2003 Tigers were bad.
Yeah.
And they were 43 and 119.
Yeah, that was insanely terrible.
I'm trying to look back. When was the next worst team in the recent memory or
The
semi-recent memory?
Orioles a few years ago, remember when they were just god awful?
It is,
Look up like look up like the 2013 Astros and like I want to say maybe the 2019 Orioles. There was an Orioles team in there that was insanely terrible.
yeah, the 23 Astros lost 111 games. Um, and let's see. Uh, uh, uh. I can never find like a just a nice list. A nice list. Um, yeah,
I feel like that Orioles team has got to be the worst in the past few decades, outside of the Tigers.
okay, let's see. Worst losing percentages. There's a lot of teams in the. Oh, these are old timey teams. The
The
Cleveland
Cleveland
Spiders,
Spiders.
the Pittsburgh Alleghenies, the Louisville Colonels, the St. Louis Browns, the Philadelphia Athletics, the Kansas City Cowboys. Not even teams anymore. The the Detroit Wolverines. But it's funny because those are like the historically bad win percent teams. And what are the White Sox at? Oops. Dun, dun, dun. And the White Sox are, come on, they are on pace with the Cleveland Spiders. The Cleveland Spiders had a 130 winning percentage. The White Sox are at 133.
So, in all honesty, um, what do you think? In how many games do you think they win at the end of this?
It's tough because can they be this bad the whole season? Because their hitting is just historically bad. But at some point, Luis Robert's going to come back
Right.
and Eloy's going to come back.
And then he'll get hurt again. But
Yeah, but so they'll get some bump from those guys. But can the pitching hold up to be what it's been, which has been like okay, especially compared to what we thought it was going to be.
I mean, this last series against the Reds, it wasn't. But I will say that against, even though they got swept by the Royals in that one series, it, they pitched really well outside that one inning. But yeah, I mean, if you want my personal prediction, I think between 58 and 62 wins. I just I'm not saying it's impossible, but losing less than like 50 or like yeah, winning less than like 58 games is really difficult to do. Every terrible team is going to have a nice little stretch.
Uh, so I man, I see your point. I see your point. I just I'm just I'm just struggling to see how they're gonna pull off 60 wins. I'm gonna go 50. I'm gonna say 50 wins.
Okay.
That would, yeah. Um, I mean, 54 wins would put them at 1 out of every 3 games they win.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're that good. So I'm going to go 50 wins this season. But have you watched any of the games lately?
A little bit.
I tune in here and there.
Yeah, just to see what's going on.
John Schriffens is just struggling. I'm not saying he's bad. He is trying to make this sound exciting. And they're 15 or they're on game 16 right now. And they're not even 10% of the season done. They're about 10%. And he is just like the other day was like the 8th inning. They were down like 6-0 and they got their first hit. And he made it sound like they just hit a grand slam to take the lead. And I was like, bro, you need to cool it a little bit because this is like, I get trying to maintain some level of excitement, but he's trying to be Rudy out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel bad for these White Sox fans. This has been atrocious. Trying to see if there's anything else that we missed here. I don't know what Tommy Pham brings to this team. Is it maybe a professional hitter? I mean, he's not that good, but somebody to be an adult in the room, be like, hey guys, we gotta get an on base percentage above our weight.
Yeah. Just don't start a fantasy baseball team with him.
Fair. uh, do you want to talk Bulls or Blackhawks?
Well, why don't we go to Bulls because we have a play-in tournament to get to.
Yeah, so
Hooray.
we made the play-in tournament, and so I have a friend that's he grew up in the Bronx. He's lived in the Bronx his whole life, lifelong Bronxer. And he's a Knicks fan because he's from the Bronx, and he is hooting and hollering about the Knicks getting the second seed. And I just like, bro, this is a Tibbs special. You get that first or second seed, overachieve, and then you get smoked in the postseason. And he's just like, no, dude, it's different this year. I was like, okay.
Well, wouldn't we have to play the Knicks if we got the 7 seed?
We're not going to get the 7th
I,
seed.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I mean, like the other playing game, the Sixers and the Heat. I think they're both really good teams.
Oh yeah, I mean they're much more likely to succeed than the Bulls or the Atlanta Hawks, and I do think that the Atlanta Hawks game is winnable.
I think they're going to beat the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, it's winnable, definitely winnable. I mean, you're at home. Yeah, I mean, you never know. You never know.
Trae Young could drop 40 points on you, but he's been slowed by defenders with length, and I think Io's gonna defend him well. I think the Bulls win that, and I don't know who I've got coming out of the other play-in, but they're gonna smoke the Bulls.
Yes, correct.
So it's it just is what it is. And it's weird. The Bulls are just maxing out like their players in time. Look at DeRozan, how many minutes he plays a game.
Yeah, I mean, he's carrying the team on his back, man. He's going out there giving his all. And I mean, look how much he's had to step up because obviously Zach LaVine's been gone and you've had Patrick Williams gone. I mean, so many members of your team have been hurt or inconsistent. I mean, it's without DeMar DeRozan, this team would be well below the seed that they are.
Yes. All right. So if the Bulls beat the Hawks, and then which I believe they're playing Wednesday,
Wednesday night at the United Center. Yep.
yeah, they would play the loser of the Sixers Heat, and then they'd have to beat the loser of that Sixers Heat to go on to play Boston. And the winner of the Sixers versus Heat goes on to play the Knicks.
Yeah.
So there's a good chance the Knicks lose round one.
It could happen.
I just think it doesn't matter. Boston, I think, is just gonna trounce everybody.
Oh yeah, I mean it's if the Bulls even make it there and they play Boston, I mean it's going to be a bye round for them essentially.
I'm really hoping that the Pelicans beat the Lakers in the other play-in. I would love to see that other series, the other play-in game, like the winner loser bracket, be Golden State versus the Lakers. Like that one last hurrah for Steph and LeBron.
Yeah, that would be cool. And I definitely think the NBA would enjoy the ratings for that one.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, over like potential of the Pelicans and the Kings. Yeah.
To quote to quote Christopher Walken in Batman Forever, yawn. Yeah, no, give me the Steph Curry LeBron. I would actually tune in to see a little bit of that series.
And I know it's not the same Steph and LeBron.
No, it's not, but you know,
It's
it's the names.
it's the names, and it's the last hurrah there. You know, those two guys are on borrowed time in their careers.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, LeBron is old. I mean, it's
Yeah, how is he's almost 40, isn't he? Or is he 40?
I think he is 40.
I mean, he still looks like he's in great shape, obviously, but we've seen the minutes more limited than he was in his
He
prime. So
he turns 40 this year.
okay, yeah.
Oh my God. I try not to jump in on LeBron being the GOAT arguments. Is you're too young to remember the Bad Boys Detroit team.
Yes.
And, and somebody was like, they had a picture of Bill Laimbeer, and they were like, this is the dude you think would bully LeBron. LeBron is 30 pounds heavier than him, all muscle. He would destroy Bill Laimbeer. And I'm just like, bro, I watched Bill Laimbeer just straight off cold cock somebody in their face. And like he would clothesline you, he would try to cripple you. Like that man was a pro wrestler, not a basketball player. And I was like, I watched LeBron bump into the ref and fall down and hold his knee. Like I recognize LeBron is infinitely better player than Bill Laimbeer. But if you're playing 80s basketball style, Bill Laimbeer is going to just destroy LeBron James with hard fouls. And when he fouls out of the game, they're going to send in Spider Sally to foul him. And then Dennis Rodman is going to foul him. And they're just going to hammer that dude the whole game. Like the Bad Boys, man, Rick Mahorn, they would have hurt you. Go back and watch these games on YouTube. Like these, everybody outside of Detroit wanted to fight this team. Like, but you knew you wouldn't because you would get your ass whooped. But we all hated them because they just came in and, Isaiah Thomas was a good player, but everybody else, they just beat the shit out of you. And then Isaiah would just score a bunch of points. And it was,
right.
It was awful. It was awful because they just beat the shit out of your best player. And I watched Jordan for years get clotheslined and hammered, and LeBron can't hang with that. He should be able to because he's a giant of a man and powerful and strong, but he doesn't play like that.
No, he played in a different era.
Yeah. So it's just I don't think these dudes watch a game and just watch Bill Laimbeer play. And good basketball player. I mean, would smoke me, but no, but he would he would actually just call off and punch you in your dumb face. Like he doesn't care. Stupid Bill Laimbeer. There used to be a restaurant in Orland Park when I was a kid called the Charlie Horse, and they had a hamburger. And it was called the Bill Lamburger.
That's awesome.
Uh,
I bet it was a massive, just behemoth of a.
I don't know if I ever had it. I just remember seeing it on the menu.
If you say, hey, here's a burger associated with Bill Laimbeer, I just picture this gnarly, mean looking burger that's probably got a bunch of delicious shit on it.
It better have some sort of potato on it, like a mashed potato or a hash browns or a tater tots or they are smashed tater tots. That's what it needs.
Yeah, that would fit pretty well. Like 4 patties and a giant ass bun and dripping with all sorts of things.
I just
Bill
think it's
Lamb burger. That's
funny
funny.
that I believe he went on to coach like women's basketball.
Bill Laimbeer?
I believe he did.
Was it like WNBA? Was it college?
Lim beer coaching. He was in. Dun, 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 dun. He coached in the WNBA.
Really?
Yes.
Who do you coach for?
Um, Detroit, New York Liberty, and the Las Vegas Aces.
How recent?
2021.
Wow, that recent.
He coached from 2002 to 2021.
Wow, he coached for a while.
He won. He won the championship 3 times.
Wow. So he was a pretty successful coach then.
Yeah, he coached the Detroit Shock.
I'll have to hit up my buddy Eric. Like, I didn't realize that Bill Laimbeer coached in the WNBA.
The Shock are no longer a team anyway.
Oh, I know that. I know that.
It's wild. They won 3 titles, and then they're no longer a team.
When was their last? I feel like they haven't been a team in a while, right?
They moved out of Detroit in 2009, moved to Tulsa, and now they're the Dallas Wings.
Oh, okay. So they still exist. They're just not in Detroit.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2000 not being there since 2009. That's a
So
long
when
time.
they moved, he stopped coaching. So he was with them till 2009.
I see.
Then he was out from 2010, 2011, and 2012. Came back in 2013 for the New York Liberty. And then left the Liberty after 2017, and then 2018 to 2021 with Las Vegas.
Did you think that coming on the show tonight we'd be talking about Bill Laimbeer?
No. He was also 2-time WNBA Coach of the Year, won 3 WNBA titles.
Michael Bush just homered again.
Love that dude. The Dodgers got to be looking back at that trade and be like, we might have screwed the pooch on that one.
Oh my goodness.
All right, should we wrap this up with Bulls or Blackhawks here?
Yeah, I got I the one thing I want to say about the Blackhawks mainly is congratulations, Frank Nazar. Not only did you make it to the NHL, you scored a pretty breakaway goal in your first ever NHL game. How cool is that? I think this kid is going to be really, really good. It's an exciting way to close out a season that's been pretty bad.
I don't understand, and maybe you have better insight than I do. So after Michigan's season ended, they signed Frank Nazar to his 3-year entry-level contract, and then burned a year of it to play 5 games with the Blackhawks to finish the season.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. I honestly I don't understand the I mean, I'm sure there's logic behind it. I just don't know what it is. Is
Hey,
it trying to get him maybe after 2 full seasons, we see promise, but he's not good enough, and we can get a long-term deal for cheaper than if after 3 years. I don't know.
Well, I mean, either way, I like the fact that he's getting a taste of the NHL right now. Getting a nice small taste of it, I think that's good for him.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a bad thing for him, but it is. Uh, I look at it and I don't understand it, and I'm not saying I'm the smartest guy in hockey front office ness, but uh, that was weird to me. Like when he signed his entry level contract, I expected that. I expected him to leave Michigan. But I didn't hear anything talks about it. It just sort of popped up. Oh, hey, look at this.
Well, I knew the time was ticking down for him to sign,
Well,
so we
I
were
think he could have
waiting on the decision.
I think he could have gone back to Michigan.
He could have. It was up to him. It was
Yeah.
either go back or sign with the Blackhawks. So he signed with the Blackhawks.
Um, so uh yeah, I was like, okay, here we go. And but I was not expecting uh him to play with the Hawks this season.
No, and it was a nice surprise to not only see him on the Hawks, but to see him score that goal. Because I even
Oh,
said, like, listen, no matter what, win or lose, doesn't matter. Like
yeah.
that goal made it. That goal made that game a win in my book.
Oh, absolutely. Um, you getting him that getting him that experience and getting him that goal in his first game was huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and I believe the Blackhawks have clinched the second best odds for
Yes,
the
yeah.
draft. Um, last time we talked, I was like, it's pretty unlikely they move up or down. Um, but I was like, mathematically, they could move down. And, between second and third, the odds, you're like, what a big difference. But it's the dropping down. Like, I didn't want to see them drop down to potentially to fifth. So right now, they will pick first, second, third, or fourth.
Yeah, we'll see what we get.
And I'm gonna do one time here. This is for all the marbles. I've got Tankathon up. Sim lottery. One time. Blackhawks are drafting fourth.
No.
I mean, for all the marbles, they're drafting fourth. For all the marbles, fourth. Fourth.
Wah, wah.
I just did it 4 times and they were fourth every time. Well, all that matters is when they do the actual draft lottery, which is coming up pretty quick. What's the date of the lottery? I think it's like the first week of May. Why can't I just find when is NHL lottery? May 8th. So we're just 3 weeks away? 3 weeks away, and we'll know if we got Macklin Celebrini or if we're getting some guy I've never heard of.
That's kind of how this draft is, right? I haven't done my homework much outside of Celebrini, so
Yeah, like I'm looking at a mock draft. Ivan Demidov, RTM Lev
Demidov
Shunov,
sounds like Doug Dimmadome.
Caden Lindstrom, Cole Iserman, Sam Dickinson.
Wait, like Iserman? Like, is that spelled the same?
No, it's spelled with an E, not
Oh,
a
okay.
Y. Zane Parek, Anton Salayev, Zeev Buyum, Berkeley Catton, Tidge Iginla. I wonder if he's related to Jerome.
Oh, that's a good question.
Are you related to Tidge Iginla? He's got to be.
I assume it's spelled the same.
He's Jerome McGinley's son.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. All right.
Might be the most underappreciated hockey player, Jerome McGinley.
Oh, yeah. Hall of Fame inductee, Jerome McGinley.
That's right. By the way, before we wrap up the show, Sox lost again. They got shut out 2-0.
And did they get no hit again?
No, they got a few hits.
Oh, okay. Well, that's something.
I think Eloy Jimenez actually pinch hit in the 9th inning.
Oh, yeah, he did. He struck out.
Was he? Yeah, he was the final batter.
See, Grossman 0 for 4, Benintendi 2 for 4. Woo! Vaughn 0 for 4, Sheets 0 for 2, Sosa 0 for 3, Eloy 0 for 1, Fletcher 1 of 3, Schumann 1 of 3, Maldonado 0 for 2, Lee 0 for 1, Lopez 0 for 3. So they got 4 hitted. So yeah.
Again, why is Martin Maldonado playing?
Why is Martin Maldonado? Period.
The dude's clearly washed up.
It would be so, like, as a pitcher, you've got to be like licking your lips if you're going to play against the White Sox. You're like,
Right,
oh boy,
right now, yeah.
Here we go.
Man. Sell the team, Jerry.
Oh, absolutely. Sell this team and just skulk off into, I want to see, this is what I want, him to sell the team to somebody that cares, and then him to just walk and then until he runs into Lake Michigan and keep walking like he's Godzilla at the end of the Godzilla movies, and just walks into the water and disappears.
Disappears into the lake.
He just keeps walking till his head disappears and you don't see the bubbles anymore. You're like, where did Jerry go? It's like, we won't see him until the next movie.
Blub, blub, blub.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Nope, I think I've said my piece.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill's Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. How we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, or ShyFanPat2 for Alex on Twitter/X, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Denver New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down